Hi, my name is Alexiei Dingli, and I'm a professor of artificial intelligence at the University of Malta. Today I'll be talking about addressing educational pitfalls using education AI. If we have a look at the world of today, there are a lot of things that are currently happening. If we look at artificial intelligence, it's taking over a lot of our applications. The world is changing quite a lot, and for sure, there will be quite a lot of disruption in the coming years. If we have a look at the news, sometimes you feel that it's like the end of the world is coming. We can see that, for example, 47% of jobs will vanish in the next 25 years, according to Oxford University. We can also see that 10 million British jobs will be gone in the next 15 years. According to the BBC, robot automation will take 800 million jobs by 2030. And on Fortune, AI expert says automation could replace 40% of jobs in 15 years. Of course, these are very worrying news. But, is this the reality? In actual fact, it isn't. So if we look at other sources of news, we can find that the reality is slightly more different than that. So for example, according to PwC, AI and related technologies could create around 90 million more jobs in China than they displaced over the next two decades. AI and robotics to create 60 million more jobs than they eliminate by 2022, according to the World Economic Forum. So, if you're a little bit mixed up about what's going to happen, I don't blame you, to be honest, because when you see these contrasting news, you start to wondering where's the reality. The truth is that a lot of disruption is coming our way. If it will happen in the coming 5 years or 10 years, we still don't know. But the good thing is that we know that it's coming, and it's good to start preparing for it. As we've seen in previous years, different countries are now gearing up for the AI race, and Europe is nothing less than that. And in fact, according to the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, she said that we must make Europe digital decade. So Europe has to push forward when it comes to artificial intelligence. And she also highlighted 3 main areas. The first one is technology, in particular artificial intelligence. The second one is the data, because Europe is generating huge amounts of data. And the third is the infrastructure. So the structures needed so that we can pass data from one part of the continent to the other. We also have to take note of the impact on jobs. And if we have a look at what the World Economic Forum recently published in one of their reports, we can see that according to them, around 85 million jobs will be displaced. On the other hand, we find that AI will create around 97 million new jobs. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that those 85 million will automatically go into those 97 million, because we have to, of course, retrain and upskill our workforce. And once we do that, then we can hope that those people who were affected by the AI revolution will, of course, migrate towards the new digital jobs. Something else which the World Economic Forum declared in this report is that the rate of automation is rising rapidly. In fact, by 2025, for the first time ever in human history, the amount of machines in industry will take over human workforce. In fact, machines are around 52%, and the human workforce will go down to around 48%. However, here we have to pause a little bit and understand that, even though AI will bring about a lot of changes in our lives, we have to make a distinction between a job and a task. A job is made up of different tasks, and each of these tasks have a different specialty. Now, what will most likely happen is that AI will start replacing these small tasks rather than entire jobs. And by taking over these tasks, it will perform them in a much more efficient and effective way, much more, of course, than a human could ever do. So this is what will actually happen, that AI will start seeping into our daily lives and taking over specific tasks relating to our jobs. In fact, we can foresee 4 particular scenarios. The first one is that, there will be some jobs which are actually not affected by artificial intelligence. These are mainly the caring jobs, where you have a person that's actually interacting with another person, such as, for example, a nurse or a doctor. If one of us is unfortunately in hospital, We would prefer to see a human and interact with a human rather than with a robot. On the other hand, there are quite a number of jobs that will be affected by AI, especially those that are the most mathematical based. One of them is, for example, accountancy. So a lot of accountants will see that their jobs will mutate in the coming years, and a substantial part of it will become automated. Another obvious job which will change a lot is self-driving cars. Because of course, if we have cars that are capable of driving on their own, then of course we do not need human drivers. The third scenario is that there will be a totally new jobs. So these are jobs which haven't been invented as yet. Some of them, for example, might be still being inside the labs at universities or research labs. Let me give you a few examples. One of them is, for example, an organ creator. So imagine I have an organ failure, I need to change a heart or a liver. So what happens today is that I have to go to hospital, I have to wait for a donor, and if I manage to get a donor, I get an operation and I get it replaced. In the future, there will be people who actually create these organs using 3D kind of printers. So similar to the 3D printers which we have today, but of course using organic material. They will design the organ specifically for your body, and then of course there'll be the operation that will implant that organ directly inside your body. Another example of a job which you will definitely see in the near future is a drone traffic controller. As we know, the amount of drones in our cities is constantly increasing, and in the near future, we will need a lot of people to actually control the traffic of these drones from one part of the city to the other. The fourth scenario, and it's the one that will probably happen, is the AI augmentation. So AI augmentation means that AI will start seeping into the jobs of each and every one of us and start changing those jobs. It's already happening today. So if I'm writing a document, an email, or a Word document, okay, there's an AI working at the background that essentially is checking my text. It's checking for grammatical mistakes, it's checking for syntactical mistakes, and of course, it's assisting me so that I can create good documents. But this will go even further, because here we're not just talking about the low-paid jobs, but also about the jobs on the higher end. So just to give you an example, a few years back in the United States, there was a sort of exercise between an AI and corporate lawyers. So these 20 top US corporate lawyers were given an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, which is essentially a contract between two parties. They were asked to review the agreements and, of course, spot the mistakes. So the lawyers, these 20 lawyers, with all their experience, managed to get an average accuracy of 85% and finish their task in around 1.5 hours. On the other hand, the AI, the LawGeeks AI, managed to reach an 84% accuracy, and it was finished in 26 seconds. So as you can see, the difference is quite staggering. Now, of course, this doesn't mean that the AI will take over the jobs of lawyers anytime soon, but it will be there to assist them in their day-to-day tasks. And of course, it will make their life much more easier and much more efficient. So if we were to have a look at the 20 jobs that will be increasing in popularity and decreasing, we'll find some quite interesting jobs. So on the increasing side, of course, there aren't really major changes. So you find data analysts, AI and machine learning, big data specialists, etc., etc. So the usual suspects. But what's quite strange is on the decreasing side, because you tend to find accounting, bookkeeping, business services, general and operations managers, financial analysts, postal service clerks. So, these were jobs which we thought that they were quite safe, quite secure. But of course, because of AI, AI will start taking over the tasks within these jobs. And we can expect that things will change pretty quickly in the coming years as well. Another interesting thing is that, when it comes to actual technical information, a lot of employers declare that many of their students have this technical information, which they learn through the educational system, through maybe universities and other courses which they took. But it seems that when it comes to soft skills, there's a lot of demand at the moment, and things related to analytical thinking, active learning, complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, originality and initiative, leadership, technological use, design and programming, resilience, and of course, reasoning, problem solving, and ideation. So as we can see, the soft skills are very much in demand when it comes to employment now. Now, this was, of course, where we would like to go and how were this changing. So let's have a look at the schools of today. Now, some years ago, we thought that, we'd find systems whereby you get books, you put them inside a machine, and these books automatically go inside the brains of children. Unfortunately, we're still far away from this methodology, but if we were to have a critical look at the schools of today, we find that, unfortunately, our schools didn't change much from the start of the century. In the last century, it was very obvious that the factory model was being employed, where you had one school with many classes, and in those classes, there were loads of children. Thankfully, we don't have as many children as there used to be back then. Of course, back then it was revolutionary at the time, because for the first time ever, school was free, it was compulsory, and it was for everyone. So we did make improvements since those years, but of course, we need to improve even more, because unfortunately, it seems that the factory model is still with us. We need to go for something which is more personalized, because after all, each and every one of us learns in a different way. Sometimes, unfortunately, we tend to divide ourselves, no? So we find children that are more academically inclined, others that are non-academically inclined, but, they have to pass through the academic system, which is a little bit unfair, because after all, we cannot measure everyone with the same ruler. This tends to create further divisions, the smart versus the low achievers, those that are successful because they passed an exam versus the failures because maybe they failed some exam. But the truth is that we never test the individual abilities of that child based upon what he's capable of doing. But we get the same measure for everyone, and we try to measure everyone on that same measure. And this leads me to a quote which I particularly like. It was a quote by Albert Einstein, which says that everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by the ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And this, I think, pretty much sums up what tends to happen in our system. We have the academic exams in the end, and unfortunately, since not everyone is academically inclined, we tend to see that we find a lot of failures in our system. Because of this, we need to shift our way of thinking. And thankfully, in the past years, there has been a shift. So there's been a shift towards what is known as differentiated learning, so whereby you have a number of cohorts. So normally you have the low achievers, the high achievers, and the cohort in the middle. And even teachers go to great lengths to actually create different sets of exercises and information sheets for their students. However, dividing students into 3 groups is, of course, manageable for the teacher, but doesn't mean that it reaches the individual aspirations of each and every child. Ideally, we go for a personalized education whereby each and every child has his own set of exercises and explanations. Now, of course, getting a teacher to do that is of course impossible, because you need so much time, which the teacher doesn't have. So that is why we need to look at alternate systems which help these students from actually learning based upon their own academic inclinations. One of the things as well which we have to keep in mind is that sometimes our lessons tend to be very long after each other, and of course very tiring. So it's very hard for our children to focus. On the other hand, we're seeing this trend towards micro-learning. So micro-learning, they're similar to what happens on TikTok or any other social media, whereby you get a lesson in a small span of time. So it would be a few minutes, 5 minutes maybe, and that lesson is fun, entertaining, and it covers one specific concept. So the idea is that the child goes through one concept at a time, but not necessarily in a span of a number of hours, thus allowing them to relax and digest the content which they've received in that particular lesson. Another issue which arises from time to time is that, of course, our children, even though they might understand the concepts at home, might need some additional requirements when they are at home. The additional support is very important, because between the time that they're at school and the time they go back home, they tend to forget. And of course, they need the assistance and support from the parents. However, with our fast working life, it is very obvious that parents are not always available for their children. And sometimes these children are home alone without any form of support. Because of this, we need to provide new ways of supporting these kids, maybe automated ways in order to help them achieve what they did not understand during school time. Finally, let's not forget that we are living in a world of digital distractions. So there are a lot of children that are distracted by their mobile phone, by their tablets, by their computer, by their friends, by their subscriptions on Netflix, videos, TV. There are loads and loads of distractions. So this is why school has to compare with these distractions. And let's be honest, these distractions are all fun. So they're games, they're flashy YouTube videos, they're interesting phone calls, and then you find school. So I believe that school has to go up a level and be at par with these digital distractions if we want really to reach these children so that they can consume more educational concept. Because of this, we are proposing an educational AI system. So the idea behind the educational AI system is the following. First of all, it's a web application which actually works on practically any device. So it's not limited to a particular device. It can be on the tablet, on the mobile phone, on the computer, on the smartwatch, any device really. Why? Because education can happen anywhere. And of course, as I hinted before, children tend to switch between different modes of learning. So we need to adapt to their mode of learning as well. Second, it's a personalized kind of education. So by being personalized, each and every child will have his own particular education specifically designed for him. This will help him to absorb and understand better. Of course, this is a big achievement, so we need some help. And we get that help from artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence can create this personalized education for each and every child, thus relieving the teacher from, of course, creating hundreds of worksheets to difference between the abilities of different children. By doing so, we can also move a step further and guarantee quality education for all the children that are within the class. Such a system is, of course, one of a kind. Why? Because it will generate an infinite range of AI-generated exercises. It will handhold the students gradually during their day-to-day work, but also when they are at home on their own. Students do not have a limited amount of tries, so they can keep on trying until they understand the concept, and it guarantees quicker and more effective learning, thus allowing them to reach their full potential quickly. Finally, it provides differentiated explanations so that it helps the children understand based upon their different learning abilities. As a system, even though it can be on different devices, it can also work for all sorts of education. So for primary, secondary, post-secondary, graduate, short courses, it doesn't matter, because it's one system where the concept is practically the same. And it works in a way which is very easy for the teacher to understand. So let's move a step backward and see how teachers teach today. So what they do is that the educator explains the lesson to the students. Then at the end of the lesson, he provides the students with an exercise sheet, and all the students have to do those exercise sheets. If it is differentiated learning, then of course there are more than one exercise sheets, and the students are divided into different cohorts. Now the system here works exactly the same, but rather than giving an exercise sheet, the teacher actually presses a button, and each and every student gets a different set of exercises on their tablet. So no two exercise sheets are the same, and the students can answer those exercise sheets because they are designed specifically for their abilities. This means that they will not be overwhelmed, but they will actually start moving up the educational ladder one step at a time. On the other hand, the student receive the personalized exercises, they start answering the questions. If they answer the questions correctly, they get slightly harder questions. And if they're stuck, of course, the system is there to help them. However, if they are still stuck, then of course the teacher is alerted and the teacher is informed about the problems of that child, so that the teacher can zoom specifically on the individual abilities of that child. So what is our target? Our target is to ensure that education is fun, because we believe that, if children have fun, then they can learn much more. Education should cater for different abilities. That's why we're promoting personalized education, which is only achievable thanks to AI. It should provide quality education as well. So we are guaranteeing that every child has the same number of qualitative educational system, plus as well explanations. It should be given individual attention, and that is what the child can do via the explanations. And of course, remote assistance. So when the child is at home, that child also has these explanations to help him. On the other end, we believe that the educators are very important as well. So through the system, we hope to help them by not wasting time on frivolous things, because things like, for example, the corrections are being handled by the AI, the generation of the worksheets are being handled by the AI, and a lot of other tasks which take time of the teacher, of course, from the learning aspect. Educators should have access to analytics and predictions, because through AI, we can also predict what is going to happen. So we know that a child that has problems within a particular topic will probably have problems at the end of the year. So by highlighting particular students, the teacher can then work individually with those students. We'll also help the teacher with the student to teacher ratio. Why? Because all the students, since they are working on exercises which are up to their abilities, are busy throughout the classwork. And the teacher can then focus not on the students that actually finish the classwork quickly, but rather on those that are struggling with their particular task. And finally, we hope that through the system, the educators will focus on the teaching aspect as well. So the following is the case study of our system. So it's a very fun system. It's very colorful, and it's aimed at students to help them learn. We also cover a number of issues which are normally cropping up during class. So things like, which questions should a child tackle? Which one should he revise? Which questions are the most challenging? How much work is enough? And over here, we have the AI that is, of course, coming in with different solutions. So the AI selects the best question for the children. By so doing, the children can focus on the most problematic, the most hard questions for them. AI suggests revision works based on past performance. So the AI knows which are those questions where the child struggled. So by providing revision, it will automatically give them those questions which are the hardest for those children. AI monitors the problematic questions. So in those cases, it will guide the child towards a particular solution for those questions. And it also builds a model about the number of questions which are needed for the prediction as well. Now, how does the system work? The system works by starting the child from a level which is comfortable for that child, and starts moving up with more difficult questions. Some of them are true or false, multiple choice, writing the answer. All right. If at any point in time the child has a problem, so the system reverts back to a simpler exercise, so that by doing so, it will help the child to go back to the zone where the child is more comfortable, and slowly pushing the abilities of the child further. When it comes to remote assistance, there are different sorts of assistance. The most basic are the hints. So they are textual information to help the child understand. Then there are the video hints, because some people are more graphical. They want to see things moving, and the video hints help them understand the concept. Finally, there's the wizard, which is a hand-holding kind of remote assistant. And ultimately, there's the chatbot, which is a sort of conversational bot, which allows the child to ask questions and receive particular answers. Since we're talking about children, it's very important that the system is fun. So we created a narrative of superheroes. So every child can practically customize his own superhero and customize it based upon their abilities. Now, the narrative we're using here is that by using the system, you get superpowers. And the superpowers is, of course, in this case, the learning of mathematics. The system also codifies what are known as learning outcomes. So the syllabus is divided into a number of different learning outcomes. And inside the system, the AI knows how to represent each and every one of those learning outcomes. And this is what happens inside the educational AI project. Also, as soon as the child answers those questions, there's an automatic correction system which provides them immediate feedback to the children and allows the children to, of course, learn from their own mistakes. The system also provides analytics and predictions. So in this case, we are seeing the analytics screen, whereby there are the different learning outcomes, also the different subsets of the syllabus, and of course, the performance of the class. So that the teacher can understand which are the weakest parts of the syllabus, and of course, focus on those parts and maybe re-explain to the children those concepts which are still hard to grasp. So to summarize, there are different benefits, various benefits of the system. For the students, it provides explanations, even when they have no one to help them out. It monitors the tasks and suggestions using the gamified approach. So it tries to provide a more fun way of educating children. When it comes to educators, there's no need to create the worksheets, no need to correct the work. So by doing so, teachers will save around 1 month per year in preparation and corrections. And also the system will flag particular students so that they can work with them individually. On the administrative side, it guarantees quality exercise and explanations to everyone. It guarantees coverage of the syllabus and ensures that everybody is following an up-to-date syllabus as well. These are some results from the initial evaluation. So experiments conducted with 350 children, and they used the system for around 1 month. So when compared to the control group, you find that the high achievers and the average students had an improvement of 6%, whereas the low achievers improved by up to 18%. This was very encouraging, and at the moment we're doing more longitudinal studies on the use of the system. That was it. Thank you very much. You've got a glimpse of the educational AI system. Of course, we're still working and improving on the system and hoping that by deploying the system in primary school, we can help to provide quality education for everyone. Thank you very much.